It's my pleasure to once again be here to present the 2025 financial report. So a few highlights about that report. Usually, it has been our tradition to circulate the audited books of accounts to all delegates. We try at least 2 weeks or a week before the ADC to circulate the books of accounts to allow us to have meaningful conversations when we come to these meetings. Unfortunately, this year we have not been able to do that. All of you seated here have not had an opportunity to have a look at these books of accounts, and I'll also just be presenting and you'll be seeing them there. The reason is because as late as yesterday night, we were still chasing some branches to forward to us their audited books of accounts. Some had not even shared their reports, and it's because of this electioneering period, getting them has been very difficult. And we can never circulate a report that is halfway, that is not complete, because we must consolidate all the reports. So that is an apology I'm making on this, on behalf of the NEC, who are responsible for these reports. So I'll go to the financial reports for this year. I'll be presenting our proposed budget for 2027 that is aligned to our work plan. I'll be presenting the Treasurer's report as was directed in the last ADC. I was asked to present what did we get, how did we spend it. Then the auditor will come and present the audited books of accounts to give an opinion on the report that I'll have shared. And then we will move to appoint the auditors for this year. So without wasting your time, projected on the screen is our proposed budget for 2027. If you have been a delegate, a leader in the union, you know what our vote heads have been every year. And so I'll just quickly take us through these. After this meeting, you're all going to get these reports so that you can move on and have those conversations in the BEC. We also are not able to come up with a report that is inclusive of the branch budgets. So we did a lot of projections because we didn't have active BECs to share their reports with us. In the year 2027, we are projecting to have income of 328 million. Member subscriptions, we are hoping to raise 320 if we organize and get our membership to at least 95%. And we are hoping to raise 8 million shillings from our partners, from donations and grants. As is in our constitution, we have meetings that have been prescribed in the constitution. NEC is expected to hold at least 4 meetings in a year. We agreed in 2 ADCs previously that we will, in order to cut on costs, we will have virtual and in-person meetings for NEC, NAC as well. So next year we are planning to have 2 virtual NEC meetings and 2 in-person meetings, and the cost of those meetings we are hoping to spend at least 2 million shillings as distributed there. On allowances, transport, air transport, accommodation, conference and meals, and allowances for the virtual meetings. NAC, constitutionally, we should have 2 NAC meetings in a year. We are proposing to have 1 virtual NAC meeting and 1 in-person NAC meeting. And the total cost of that will come to 890,000. And this is because the branches usually cater for the cost of transport and allowances for the branch officials who come to the NAC meeting. Our ADC, again, if you look at this ADC budget, we have provisions for accommodation. Yesterday, we agreed that every year preceding the actual ADC, we will be having this kind of leadership forums where we'll have the entire BCs across the country meeting, prior to the ADC. We have budgeted for that, and the ADC will cost 24 million shillings 500,000. Again, these are projections from our previous expenses on ADCs. Then we have standing committees in the union. We have the Finance and Audit Committee. We have the Legal Affairs Committee. We have the Disciplinary and Dispute Resolution Committees, Communications and Public Relations Committees. The committees meet 4 times in the year, at least, as was guided in the ADC of 2023. We will have 2 in-person committee meetings for the standing committees, and we'll have 2 virtual committees, 2 in-person and 2 virtual meetings for the committees. Again, we have proposed the budgets for that to, for the various committees, 694, 600,000, and for communications, 408. Again, it's based on the membership of these committees. Someone might wonder, why are we having more people in the Legal Affairs Committee, and why do we have more in the Finance and Audit Committee? We have ex-officio members in this committee. So the Legal Affairs Committee has the union lawyers as ex-officios members of those committees, so inflates the number. The Finance and Audit Committee has the Deputy Treasurer as an ex-officio member, and then it has the accountant and the National Administrator as ex-officio members. So the numbers tend to be higher than what we see in the other committees. We are also projecting to have ad hoc committees, the Interns Liaison Committee, the Young Doctors Liaison Committee. We have a standing wellness committee for the union. And then we also, it's not standing, it's ad hoc because it's not in our constitution, but we've been having it. We have other CBA negotiating committees and all such committees. We've budgeted for that at a cost of 800,000 in a year, and visits to the meetings in our branches by national officials at 2.4 million. The total costs budgeted for meetings for next year is 33,346,000. We have our payroll. A little explanation. The money comes from the branch allocations. However, this money is not disbursed to the branches. It is expended from the national office directly, despite it being allocated to the branches. So you will see the amount captured as branch disbursements is not the actual branch allocation, because salaries for staff is paid directly from the national office. So we have budgeted for that. As per our staff, we have, at the national level, we have the chief administrator, the technical assistant, accountant, project manager. We have 4 organizers. We have a front office secretary. Then we usually offer internship positions to at least 2 interns in a year. We have a driver. We have our legal team on a retainer. We have auditors. And then we have factored in their gratuity as well. And that budget comes to 15 million. What's missing here, unfortunately, was supposed to be included was the branch secretariat salaries that will bring this amount to around 27 million. So we have budgeted for 15,636,000 for national office secretariat. We have budgeted for the NEC professional fees for all NEC members as prescribed in our finance guidelines. I'll reiterate here that this is just our budget that will be based on how much we are able to raise in the year in order to fund it. The total costs on human resources for the union next year is estimated, we are projecting 55,256,000. Again, branch allocations, how we will allocate the 3,000 shillings, as I said, the allocations, what will pay as subscriptions, what will go to the benevolence fund, what will go to the development kitty. We are projecting that to be a total of 214 million based on how we will distribute the total, the 320 million that we get. Usually we budget to support our finalists dinner because we start recruiting as early as when people graduate. So we have budgeted to support at least 12 of our finalists. We are also budgeting to have solidarity actions with at least 4 partners from the civil society organizations and our sister unions across the country. And we are hoping to spend 1 million shillings on that. Last year, this past year that is gone, as you'll see in the report that I'll present, we have spent a lot of money in lobbying. We do a lot of lobbying. We lobby the Senate Health Committees, the Senate Labor Committee, the same thing at the Council of Governors, the same thing in the Parliament. We have been forced to engage MCAs in order to see our budgets approved, even at the county level. And we also have done a lot of media outreach and advocacy at that level. That's why you see our visibility has increased. We've budgeted for that. It's a very low budget at 21 million because we get guided that we cannot have a deficit that is more than a third of the budget. But you'll see in my report that a lot of our funds this past year have gone into lobbying and have also gone into legal. Again, our office operations, rent, rates, printing. We have a KMPDU app. Make sure you're using it because we pay to maintain it. Office errands, legal fees, consultancies, policy development, all those costs. We are budgeting for that at a total cost of 33 million. We have a motor vehicle in the union that is at least 5 years old now. For insurance maintenance, insurance is budgeted at 156,000 for the whole year. And then fuel and maintenance at 150,000 every month, a total of 1.8 million. We have budgeted for air travel and international travel for our officials. And the total of that, what we will spend on travel is 6.3 million for the year. We also have budgeted on trainings for our union members, union leaders, and our staff at a total of 7.2 million for the entire year. We are going into CBA negotiations. We have our main CBA that will be negotiating with the Ministry of Health. We'll be negotiating with the Council of Governors on behalf of the 47 counties. We are looking at negotiating CBAs with the private hospitals where we are getting a recognition agreement. And we are also looking at concluding the CBA at KUTTRH. And for that, we have budgeted for a cost of 700,000. This is just being safe so that we don't exceed the third limitation in terms of budget deficit. If you look at that, what we project as our total expenditure is 373 million with a deficit of 44 million. I explained the assumptions that we have in our budget. The branch allocations are based on what was approved in the 2017 ADC, that members will pay a subscription of 3,000 shillings. 1,000 shillings will be allocated to the branches. 1,000 shillings will be allocated to the national office. 500 shillings will go to our development kitty. 350 will go to our benevolent fund. And these will be allocated from what we receive monthly from the counties. I talked about the assumptions we've made around the meetings, virtual versus in-person, and what is prescribed in the Constitution. Again, lobbying and advocacy are based on the assumptions that we have to engage the various stakeholders and duty bearers to make sure that our agenda remain top of their discussions at all levels of decision making. Talked about assumptions around partnerships and collaborations where we have solidarity action with our partners as well as supporting our finalists for their finalist dinners. So those are basically the assumptions we make when we prepare the budget. So that is our budget for 2027, which will be moving the ADC to adopt to allow us expend that money in that way. So I'm going to present the report for last year. This is something that members have been asking for at every ADC. They said the accounting language in the audit report is too much technical jargon. We want a simple report that just says, this is what we received and this is how we spent it. So this year we have endeavored to make sure that we do that as you requested, and hopefully we keep learning and we keep receiving feedback from you and implement. So again, last year we received a total of 284 million as members' contributions, and we were able to mobilize 10 million from grants and donations, our biggest being from the Public Services International that supports our organizing work. So this is how we spent this money. So we spent it on meetings. We had 2 NEC meetings last year in person, and we spent a total of 1.2 million for those meetings. We spent on allowances for the officials and the secretariat to come to the meeting. We spent on road transport reimbursements and air travel for the NEC officials. We spent on accommodation, and then we spent on conference and meals. Sorry, this figure should not be, it's 200,000, not 3.2, Paula. So we spent a total of 1.2 million. And then we had the NAC meetings. We spent a total of 3.68 million. We had 2 NAC meetings last year. We had our ADC in Mombasa, and we spent a total of 23,839,000 at that ADC, where we accommodated people for 2 nights in Mombasa. We had our standing committee meetings, mostly the Finance and Audit Committee and the Communications and Public Relations Committee meetings. And we spent 1.2 million for that. And our meetings last year, in addition to the ADC cost, came to 34,138,000. Human resource, we spent a total of 59 million on salaries and NEC professional fees. On branch allocations, how we allocated the monies that we received last year, including to the various subscriptions to PSI, ITUC, and COTU. We spent a total of 72,475,000. And we spent 400,000 on medical students finalist dinners. On lobbying and advocacy, as I said, that we spent a lot of our money on these. And I need you to look at that amount that goes into lobbying vis-a-vis the wins that we have gotten, what has come into your pay slips, what has been unlocked, what has found its way to Parliament, what has found its way to Senate. We have had to, hold caucuses with the senators, with the parliamentarians, with governors, and that has cost us a total of 56 million for the entire year. Again, on office operations at the national level, we spent 29 million on rent, stationery, office errands, legal fees, and the legal fees, it takes the chunk of that component at 22 million. And then we had consultancies, all of that adding up to 29 million. We spent 145,000 on motor vehicle insurance, on fuel and maintenance. Our vehicle had to be repaired twice last year. And then on fuel, and we spent 2.4 million on that. And we spent 6.4 million on international travel for our officials who went out of the country. Some went for training, some went for conferences, and we supported that. Again, trainings for union members. We held virtual meetings. We had members being invited to various meetings across the country. So if you're seated here and you've ever been invited to any meeting by KMPDU for any reason, and it's been facilitated, we did a facilitation to members only who are not leaders at 2.9 million. We spent 2.9 million on training for our leaders. We had leaders who went to South Africa for training. We had leaders who went to Italy, one person to training. We had some people going to the UK for training. We had people going for workshops in Dar es Salaam. Some people went for workshops in Rwanda. The organizers, yes. So we spent a total of 2.9 million on that. And then we did training for our secretariat together with our national treasurers on our finance procedures and policies. And we spent 1.3 million on that. So in total, we spent 7 million shillings on trainings. We've not done a lot of, we didn't do a lot of CBM meetings last year. We only began engaging with the ministry around our CBA when we submitted our initial proposal. So the team that was engaging on that end, we only spent 439,000 in those meetings. So our total expenditure for last year was 244,946. Okay. I will now invite the auditor to present the audit reports, either qualify or not qualify the report that I just presented as our income and expenditure. Welcome, Douglas.